Art on geometry. So I'm going to make 3 videos here, one for each of these proofs. And again, these are these tough proofs in section 4.7. They involve overlapping triangles. They involve all kinds of stuff under the sun. So you just got to be on your game and not afraid to try stuff. So let's get right to it. So notice here we're given that triangle AFC is congruent to triangle EFC, that segment BC is congruent to DC, and that angle GHF is congruent to angle GIF, and we have to prove that triangle AHB is congruent to triangle EID. Are you kidding me? Right? We have to prove a second set of triangles congruent. Why? This is so bizarre. Why would they give us these triangles congruent if we have to prove these triangles congruent? Well, it's because that from that pair we can use Cpctc to help us find other pairs of congruent parts that'll help us with this pair. So let's go ahead and highlight some of these triangles. Where's AFC? AFC is right here. Okay. And where is EFC? EFC is right next to it. So it's these two triangles, right? Okay. So that's the two triangles to start with that we know are congruent. And then we have to prove that AHB, so this triangle is congruent to EID, this triangle. So let's start there. So what parts in the blue triangles are also in the red triangles or the pink triangles? And those parts are right here and here. Those two corner angles are in the big triangles and the small triangles. So that'll be a pair of corresponding parts for our big triangles that will also be helpful to prove the small triangles congruent. So angle A will be congruent to angle E. Okay. Then we have BC is congruent to DC. Now, why is that helpful? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. Well, we'll see. Okay. We'll talk about that. I mean, I see, AB is here and DE is here. So, you know what I see? Watch this. So in the big triangles, AC. So, I mean, that was just me thinking out loud. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making this video. And then it just came to me, right? So again, these proofs are not everybody knows. So this is AC. And this is CE, right, or EC. So those two sides are also congruent because they're corresponding parts of our big blue triangles, right? And now we know that BC and CD are congruent. So what we could do is we can subtract BC from AC, and we can subtract CD from EC. And what is that going to leave us? That's going to leave us with AB congruent to ED. And that'll be a pair of sides. So here's a pair of angles. Here's a pair of sides. Right? So eventually, these pairs of sides will be congruent. Okay, so again, I'm just walking through the proof with you here. And then where's the last piece going to come from? Well, why did they tell us that these angles are congruent? I'll use green. Why did they tell us that these aren't even any of the triangles? Well, look, we have vertical angles here and here. So these angles are congruent and these angles are congruent. So all 4 of them will be congruent. And here's our second pair of angles. And look, angle, angle, side. And we're done. These triangles will be congruent by angle, angle, side. So we got to put all this together. Oh my goodness. Well, here we go. I'm going to erase this distracting colors. And hopefully you can follow through. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use Cpctc to talk about angle A congruent to angle E. You can always go backwards and watch the video, and that's Cpctc. Good. And now I'm going to talk about AC and EC being congruent segments. AC and EC being congruent segments by Cpctc. And now because BC and DC are congruent as well, we can subtract them from those longer segments to get another pair of shorter congruent segments, AB and ED. And that is because of this whole segment addition subtraction idea, right? So congruent segments subtracted from other congruent segments make more congruent segments. There we go. And now we're going to talk about our vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. So I need angle, let's see. So GHF was listed first. So GHF is here. So angle GHF is congruent to this angle right here. Let's call it AHB because they're vertical angles and they're congruent. And then the other angle given to us was GIF. So angle GIF is congruent to angle EID over here in this triangle, and that is because they're vertical angles. And now we can use the whole big transitive property, right? Because I know that these first two angles are congruent to each other, so these second two angles will also be congruent to each other. So I know that angle AHB will be congruent to angle EID, and that is the transitive property. Nice. And now look at my triangles. Angle, angle, side. I know now that triangle AHB is congruent to triangle EID. Angle, angle, side. Green check mark. Click submit for the bigger green check mark. And yes. So this was a case where they gave you two congruent triangles as part of the given to use Cpctc with to then find another pair of triangles congruent. Okay. And again, this overlapping picture and stuff, again, things get very hectic, but they're good problems. All right. So that's the first one. I'll make 2 more videos of 2 separate problems.